Alright guys, welcome to Unconditional. This is kind of like some nightly stuff because it's just something that just happened on the spot. So I was talking to this guy. I was at his house, we were hanging out, and we were having this conversation about like today's biggest issues. ISIS, that's really the question I asked him. This guy is a fellow military member, and he served for our country during like the 92 stage, like Gulf War, I want to say it was. And I was just asking him a few ideas, right? And we talked about a few things, and one thing led to the next. And the next thing you know, in this conversation, we find ourselves like in a heated debate, right? And it wasn't going too well for me because I didn't really have a chance to like explain my ideas. And sometimes when people have like a preset idea, when you say something, right? Essentially what I had said, he asked me if I was an American. And like in the 2 seconds I had to answer this question, I thought about it really long and hard, and I said no. And the reason why I said no is because I said I was a planetarian. And from that minute on, because this guy had served for our military, the conversation went way south, and it was very misinterpreted of what I was trying to say. And he essentially told me in this conversation that the reason why I could say something like that, something so outlandish and offensive, is because I was in America. And one thing that you'll learn about me, and something that I'm trying to figure out as I'm coming through this process, is that to me the word freedom, right, is just a word meaning that you weren't free before. Yet how can that be when we were born free? Now, if you don't understand that, let me put it to you in different terms. Essentially, fear is the only thing that stops you from being free. You as a person have a choice, and you can make a choice to allow someone to control you or to tell you that you can't do this. Therefore, you're under some sort of restriction. Now, some restrictions can be good. I mean, like obviously, like we don't want a bunch of people going out killing people. But at the same time, like when we're talking about freedom, as far as freedom to speak, I choose to say the words and the actions and the thoughts that I have. I choose that. I can allow someone to take that away from me, but at some point I have to ask myself, am I scared of them? Are they going to threaten me? What are they going to do? Now when I said this to this guy, he said, well, they'll cut your head off. They'll kill you. You know, you'd be dead. Guys, death is infinite. It's going to happen. You can't beat it. Just because someone does something like that, it doesn't mean that that person, I hate them or I want ill harm to them. To me, the way I look at it, that was their choice. And that's what they chose to do. And no matter what, at some point I'm going to die. So just because that's something that they choose to do doesn't mean that it's the end. Guys, we think of death as something that ends to all. The way I look at it is no matter what, we are an energy force. Okay, and with that energy force, energy can't be created nor can it be destroyed. It's like it's never ending. So that energy is going to go somewhere, and if I die believing in what I believe in and I go to the next level, like what does it matter? All the things that we look at as relevant to our lives, material items, things like that, guys, when we leave this planet, it's non-existent. It doesn't matter. All the success and all these things, these realities that we've created, none of them have any relevance to what's going on after that point. So therefore, if you let go of fear and you allow that to not control your life, then you are truly free. But if you allow things like persecution of what somebody might say and all these things, I mean, so many people in their lives are looking for a saving grace. And essentially that's kind of where the United States has fallen as a saving grace to most countries. The only problem is at a certain point we have to ask ourselves is that there's a fine line between being a hero and being a bully. And are we really flirting on that line? Are we causing more devastation than good? These are questions we need to ask. Like I said, all the time, man. Ask yourselves the questions why. Why are we in these conflicts? And what are we doing to prevent them? And how can we eliminate them? Words like eradicate aren't in the definition of humanity. Alright guys, so another thing I want to say right now is that my ideas may seem out there and they may seem like a foreign language to you. But if you really ask yourself the question of what is of utmost importance, Right now we live in a reality that bases off our lives off of individually us. Okay? At this point in my life, I've come to a reality of that there's more people out there. There's more people that are struggling in worse positions than I am. There's people that are better than off than I am. But the biggest question to me is, how can I help everyone, every single person succeed? And then that poses another question. What is the definition of succeed? Like I've said before, if I could provide the 4 necessities of life to every single person on this planet, that would be the definition of success to me, which would be food, water, air, and shelter. Now those 4 things are very simple, but yet we've become very distracted from what it takes to obtain these things. My friend, he posted a post about my page that I have on Facebook. You can check it out, by the way. It's called Unconditional TREWS, or Unconditional, and on YouTube, Unconditional TREWS. Please subscribe. But anyways, he had said something along the lines of that I had a youthful spirit and an idealistic point of view. And in that statement, it made me pose a question, which is, if I feel this way at 26, and I asked him, did you ever feel this way in your life? And he said, obviously, yeah. You know, when he was a younger guy and he had that youthful spirit and that idealistic view, he felt that way. So my question there is, what changed? What put you in a position that we left that behind? Because no one can argue with the ideas that I'm presenting of helping everyone that we can, saving the planet. No one can say that those 2 things right there are not of the utmost importance. So what changed our agenda? Is it because we felt the necessary to have the modern, the modern necessities of life? Not now only do we have food, water, air, and shelter, we have a telephone, we have a car, we have all these other things that are unnecessary in our lives. So I think what we have to do is start redefine the terms that we use in our everyday lifestyle. And the biggest thing is, and if you're an older person and you once felt like this and have lost connection with it, then what made you change? Ask yourself the question, why did you lose in the sight of that goal? Because that goal, like I said, is of utmost importance. The other thing I'm going to say is Russell Brand, right? This guy is, I want to say, in his 40s. If he feels this way now, and he's thinking about it now, I'm 26 years old. That's a lot of insight on the world. It could change everything that we know. So think about that. If you're young and older people are telling you things like this, like, whoa, this shit is messed up and we need to pay attention, and the shit they've been telling us for the last 30 years is all wrong, then right now is the time to really reconsider what we're doing, because they are telling us some very important information. So pay attention, get involved. The last thing I'm going to say tonight is Frank, the guy that I was having the debate about that got kind of heated. At the same time that everything got confusing and no points were really made, and he felt really upset and offended by what I had said because I said I was a planetarian and not an American. The great thing is the guy was still cordial and ended up even coming over 5 minutes later and inviting us to dinner. So people can have different views. People can have different ideas of what they see as words and definitions in that are realities. But the idea is to talk about them, to bring up the points. And at the very end of the conversation, he challenged me to something that I'm going to vow to tonight. I promise, this is November 18th of 2014, I, Jacob Daniel Delagal, will never stop to try to challenge to change the world. And if you're not thinking about the same thing, then what are you thinking about? Thank you for watching Unconditional Truths. Have a great night.